So welcome. Glad you're here.
Appreciate it, Spencer.
Yeah, glad you're here. I think Terrence and I first met probably in 2009. Give me my guess. Because you were here in 09. You
Yes,
were
sir.
Working. What were you doing in 09? You
I
remember?
just retired from the NFL and was transitioning. I was doing development, real estate
Yeah,
development.
you were starting to do some of the student stuff and some of the houses over there, and get your own real estate company going. And we had our partnership had just acquired Traditions Club, and we were not from here, and we had this master plan community with a P3 in the city of Bryan, and we were starting to meet people, right? And didn't take us long to meet this guy right here, which is a lot of fun. In fact, I was talking to my son Trey. Trey, raise your hand back there. There's you for a second. My class of 13 Corps cadet's son who builds guitars in Bryan. If you guys want to buy a guitar, he's right here. He's a fantastic luthier. You guys can look that word up too. But Terrence actually spoke at Midnight Yell, did the keynote at Midnight Yell in fall of 11.
I think it was 25,000 people there at night.
There's at least 25,000 people there.
Yeah.
Because I was there. It might be the last Midnight Yell I've been to. But it was a lot of fun. And the Gators were on the field. The juniors for the Corps were on the field. And Terrence was always very humble and courteous and cordial and generous with his time to spend the time with the kids, spend the time with the kids on the football team, basketball team, Corps cadets, any students. So you guys are very lucky to have Terrence here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, bro.
For being here. We're just going to do what we do in Startup Aggieland is kind of just a casual, free-ranging deal. Terrence was kind enough to interview me for his podcast a while back, and so now I get to return the favor.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Chapel Hill, Texas. Where in the heck is Chapel Hill, Texas?
Yeah, so a lot of times here in Aggieland, people think it's the one in Brenham. But it's actually the one in East Texas. So it's Tyler, Chapel Hill. So, I grew up in East Texas, grew up in the country, and our rival school is White House. So obviously Pat Mahomes is playing in the Super Bowl this weekend. So I've pretty much known him. There's a lot of talent that comes out of East Texas. So I know his family knows mine. So I'm a Green Bay Packer, but I'm pulling for the Chiefs this weekend.
Yeah. But he's a lot younger than you.
A lot younger
You're
than
old
me.
now.
I'm getting old, man.
Yeah.
Getting old.
Class of 05.
Yep.
Yeah, which is a good number for you.
Mm-hmm.
Good number. So tell us a little bit about your childhood in Chapel Hill, football and otherwise.
Yeah, so born and raised in East Texas, grew up with a single mom. She is the foundation of everything that I am. She pushed me. I was the baby of 7 brothers. So y'all know I got all the road downhill. So made me tough, but at the same time, she always knew that I was different. And so what people don't realize is I actually had 5 full rides to academically before I ever got a football scholarship. So I had a full ride to Rice University, places like that, SMU, full rides academically before I ever got a scholarship. Now I ended up getting 20 to 25 D1 scholarships for football. But she always pushed me. So I was an entrepreneur at an early age. We would get up on Saturday mornings, and she would always tell me, like, you can do whatever you put your mind to. So I never had that mentality that I couldn't do anything. And where some people would see it as arrogance, I'm just very confident. And where most people would see, well, you don't have a dad, you came from an impoverished background, I never saw it as a negative. I just said, hey, what's the solution? Let's figure it out, put in the work. So there was a time where I said, Mom, I want to start a business. She said, okay, what do you want to start? Show me your business plan. I was in like 5th grade, guys. And so I drew it up, had my pictures to go with it, and she said, okay, so we're going to the doctor's office today, and you're going to pitch. So I did my first pitch at 5th grade, didn't know it was a pitch. And so we went to the doctor's office, and we get there, and she puts me on the spot in front of everybody, brings all the doctors, the nurses inside, and she's like, all right, pitch. So I pitched my business. It's a lawnmower business. So instead of mowing yards and residential homes, I was pitching for commercial office buildings. I ended up getting it. I closed the deal, got a doctor's office. Well, then he referred me to a CPA firm, a lawyer's office, and I ended up getting a whole block of commercial buildings, and I was in 5th grade. So, but here's the thing.
Whose equipment?
My own.
Oh, good for you.
Literally. Yeah, she made me buy it myself.
There you go. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. And so from that point, we didn't have a truck, so we would literally take my lawnmower, my little gas can, my weed eater, and put it in the back of her trunk, tie a little string to keep it from flying out. And she'd take me to the city, drop me off, and I would mow those properties and sit under the tree and wait on her to come get me. That was the mentality that she started me on early, and that's the reason why when I came to Texas A&M, I never played receiver. I was a quarterback, but I chose to move wide receiver and ended up breaking every record in the record books and doing a lot of stuff on the field and off the field. So
yeah, still hold the record.
Still hold it.
At least one.
I think I have about 45 records at Texas A&M. And yeah, so that's a part of my story. One thing I'm most proud of is I was 3-time academic all-conference, 2-time team captain. Those are the things that really matter because you have to earn those. The records I earned too. But then from that point, went to the Green Bay Packers. I was in the Aaron Rodgers draft class. Obviously, everybody knows discount double check guy. And that's pretty much discount double check.
Yeah, so lawn mowing is, I guess, real estate people start off in lawn mowing businesses. I guess a lot of people start off in lawn mowing businesses. My mom was a real estate agent. I started off mowing yards too as a kid, and I always think that Beaver had to have been in the lawn mowing business, because, you guys know Beaver, right? With Buc-ee's, the guy who founded Buc-ee's. Is it Appleton? I think it's Beaver Appleton founded Buc-ee's. Because, you're 2 hours in, you're a long way home, you're about out of gas, you're hungry, tired, and thirsty, you need to go to the bathroom, right? So it had to be an inspiration for Buc-ee's mowing yards, because your lawnmower's about to run out of gas anyway. You guys will get it later. So let's talk about while you're growing up and doing this, was there a pivotal moment that really solidified your motivation? Because you're obviously, and we'll go into a little bit about what you're doing here in a second, but Terrence is running multiple companies, multiple enterprises, lots of investments, never says this is enough, wants to keep doing more. So there's an incredible amount of motivation that you've displayed from a young age. Was there a pivotal moment to that, or did that just come naturally to you?
Man, I honestly would say it's God-given in the sense that we're all, the more and more I study personalities and profiles, and now that I have my littles that I'm studying and trying to understand who they are, it's really the way I'm wired. But in that, there were scenarios and things that happened that really motivated me. My mom told me this story, and then I realized that in 4th grade, I always wanted to be the fastest kid in the school. And so at that time, our school went K through 4. So if you win the first heat in 4th grade, you're practically the fastest kid in the school. So, but what I didn't realize is the morning of the race, my mom came into my room to find me at like 5 a.m. and I wasn't in the bed. So she freaked out. I was running up and down the hill the morning of the track meet. In my mind, training. Well, you probably want to train the weeks before the track meet, not the day of the track meet. But the point is, it just shows the way I was wired. I went out that day, won every race. I was the fastest kid in the school, and it was a goal that I set for myself. That's just, I've always been like that. I've always been a goal setter, and it's never to get achievements. It's never, like, people ask me, you just play football to make millions of dollars? I'm like, no, I actually paid 22 years for free. Like, I only got paid to play football 1 year in my life. It was just, I was passionate about it. So I think it's just the way I'm wired, Spencer. But the motivation was always to, support my mom and prove her right.
Yep. So you came to A&M, did the A&M thing, got drafted by the Packers, had injury on the field. You guys may know this, and very scary moment. Carted off the field, right? We talk about that a lot. But let's talk before the injury, right? What did you learn from your NFL experience before you got hurt? As far as how life works, did it confirm anything? Did it change your mind on anything at all?
I'd actually rewind back. I learned a lot at Texas A&M. Coach Slocum, obviously, is a legend. I still don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I know we try to do a better job of honoring him. There was a window where we didn't. And I love that man with all my heart. And he taught me how to be a leader in the sense that he'll tell you he loves you and he'll tell you as a terrible play all in the same breath. And you never felt like he demeaned you as a human being. And so when I try to lead, I've always tried to embody the characteristics that I learned from him as an 18-year-old kid. And then coming to Texas A&M, being an East Texas kid, it just fit me. I was a military kid, East Texas agricultural type kid, so it's something that it made sense. And then once I got here, I caught the game-winning touchdown my first game ever at Kyle Field. And so I went from a no-name 2-star recruit to now I'm literally on every magazine and everything. So it was a lot for an East Texas kid to digest, but God forced me into that spotlight in order to tell my testimony and really. So that's where really I started transitioning as a young man into a man. And then when I got to Green Bay, the one thing I learned about the Packer organization is they run it like a business. I mean, it is a $5 billion organization. So I'm working for a $5-6 billion company. So I wasn't just there catching touchdowns. I was watching how they ran the organization. And every year they get voted as one of the best organizations to not only work for, but to play for. So I learned a lot from them from that standpoint.
Yeah, did everybody learn those same lessons? I mean, as you come through that, you kind of get the sense that it's like in any, random, random sample of people, right, in any organization or any culture or whatever, that some are going to excel, some are not going to excel, some are going to be total goofballs, some are going to be just totally diligent. Did everybody understand how, precious this time was when they were in the NFL, or did some guys not really, were they not as motivated as you?
I would say it's a smorgasbord in the locker room. It's like literally, if you want diversity, go into a sports locker room, especially football. All backgrounds, all walks of life, and we have one common goal. Now, there's a lot of people who don't really take it serious. They think it's going to go on forever. And that's the stories that you hear a lot about on ESPN or like the 30 for 30 broke, right? But then there's that, I'd say less than 5% of people who really understand that, like, this is a great opportunity. I call it a start on life. Because even if you play 10 years and have a Super Bowls and Pro Bowls, you're going to be 32 when you retire. Because you usually will go in at 20 to 22 years old. So you got to have life after football. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've been really pushing the NFL, to tell those stories more. Not just telling the stories of what we've done on the field, but now what we're doing after. And for me, there's a story that changed my thought process. There's a guy named Sam Congado. Never forget him. He was a free agent running back. He didn't get drafted. He didn't get a signing bonus. He barely made the team. He was on practice squad. And I remember during workouts, we had 2-a-days, and then I see him after all of the workouts that day. He's in the scrubs, leaving practice. And I just stopped him because I'll ask anybody any question. I said, Sam, where are you going? He said, I'm going to the hospital. I said, why? He said, because I'm studying to be a heart surgeon. Because I'm going to go back to my native country and be a heart surgeon. And I remember in that moment at like 22, is like I sat in my locker for some time. I'm like, okay, how do I think like that? And then that's when I started thinking about real estate or what my next passion could be. But Sam Congado.
So who introduced you to real estate?
My financial advisor at the time. I was already kind of reading about it, thinking about it. I read a Robert Kiyosaki book, Who Took My Money. But my financial advisor, William Taylor at the time, and Mr. Carter, he's here now in Traditions.
Yeah, I know
Mr. Bill.
Yeah.
So I was with Bill's firm. My assets were. And I told them I wanted to do real estate. And they got me with a group called Stillwater Capital. Yeah. And those guys have made some big moves. They actually just got awarded the new PGA headquarters in Frisco. Mm-hmm. So I was investing with those guys at 22, 23, 24 years old. So that was my first introduction into real estate.
Yeah. And what was it about? I mean, you're academically super bright, very motivated. You would have been a successful, dog catcher, astronaut, whatever, right? Anything you chose to do,
yeah,
right? You probably would have been successful at it. So what was it about real estate, you think?
Man, I would say it's all God, honestly. Everybody knows about what's happening with the Bills player, DeMar. I mean, you don't even need to watch football. Everybody saw what happened with him. I had a similar experience on Monday Night Football. I didn't have a cardiac arrest, but I got paralyzed from the neck down. Had to get carted off. I went through neck surgeries, physical therapy, all those things. And so in that transition of being depressed and having neck surgeries and just thinking my life was over, I just prayed to God and said, God, give me something I can be passionate about, whatever it is. And I opened up my hands. I didn't hold it with a loose grip. I just said, show me something that I can be passionate about, the same way that I'm passionate about football. And he showed me real estate.
And today, still passionate?
Still passionate about it. Under Terrence Murphy Companies, we have 20 companies that we own and run, or founded or purchased. And we got another 30 companies that we've invested in. So we got about 52 companies in our Terrence Murphy Companies portfolio. And we're actually working on a new private equity firm that we're going to announce in a couple weeks. And just really excited about, just loving on people and helping people. Like for me, I see all the students at Texas A&M. I see myself in them. That's why, like Spencer said earlier, I try to respond to every message and everything that people ask me. Now, I've been off the radar for a couple of years now. I kind of needed a break. But I retired about a month ago, and so now I'm really just trying to spend my time giving back and doing what I want to do.
Yeah. So how do you answer the question, what do you do? When you meet somebody and they go, Terrence, what do you do? How do you answer that?
I say I'm a real estate entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I say if
what is that?
If it's real estate, I'm involved, right? So, I took TM5 as a startup company, and that's why I'm passionate about investing in startup companies. I went to a franchise. I felt like I wasn't really getting trained, and after 7 transactions, I went and started my own company. And people say, why would you do that? It's not going to work in College Station. You got to have a franchise. You don't have a broker. You've only done 7 transactions. And we scaled TM5 to $1 billion in sales in 8 years. Never been done for a Texas startup company with no franchise. So off that, for me, sales, investing, and entrepreneurship. So.
And what did you see in the franchises that you said, it's not for me?
The red tape. I like to be fluid. I need to be able to react to the market, and I need to be able to hear from my customers and make those decisions and not have to get somebody to sign off on every move I'm trying to make.
Answer to somebody else. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So you're injured. You make a transition. It's not an easy transition to make. And I got to think that nobody's probably ever said this to your face. They're not going to be brave enough to say it to your face, but I'm a good 4 feet from you, and there's a lot of witnesses. I might be able to get away with it. But just, devil's advocate. Look, any of you guys that are in a little bit in the spotlight or have a company or whatever, sometimes it elicits jealousy, right? And some people will be jealous, so they say you got lucky. Or, if it hadn't been for your dad, right, you would never be here, or whatever it is, right? And so I think I can hear in my head somebody saying, well, it had to be pretty easy for you, Terrence. You had all that money from the NFL. It's easy to start a company when you got money. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people don't really know your story. That's why one of the things I've never had a struggle with is jealousy or envy. I look at everybody's success and I learn from it in the sense that it motivates me and inspires me. So I always try to pull inspiration from someone's success. I've never looked at any success. Like, I'm literally like the #1 fan of everybody in town that does anything. And so for me, when people would say that, like, well, you're only successful because you're Terrence Murphy. And it's like, well, how did I become Terrence Murphy though? Like, I graduated on a Friday, packed my car up on a Saturday, and slept on a guy's couch for a month straight just so I could work out with the team. So I don't really, and as soon as I feel that energy from somebody, I just shake their hand, nice to meet you, I'm on, move around, move to the next person. But how I would rebuttal that is, it was seed capital, it was a start on life. I didn't make Tom Brady money or even my roommate. Aaron Rodgers was my best friend on the team. He used to come home crying to me that he wasn't playing because I already was. And so I didn't make that kind of money, but I got, seed capital, and I did something with it.
Yeah. I think everybody's got a, if you're born in the United States of America, you're lucky.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
You're lucky, right? Everybody else on the planet's going to go, it's easy to be successful in the United States. If you grew up in XYZ country, it would be much more difficult, which is totally true, right? So, but then you got to say, okay, well, what are the elements to success? What are the elements to entrepreneurship, right? It's diligence, all these things that Terrence has been talking about, right? Motivation, diligence, all that. So you've got a lot of things that you're doing right now, right? And all kinds of activities. I mean, I get the sense from you that you, for a long time, said yes to a lot, right?
Yeah.
Are you slowing down on saying yes at all?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm really focused on a couple of things. One of the motivations that God gives me every year, kind of a 1 or 2 word phrase, and this year is simplification and freedom. So I semi-retired it's been about a month, and I've just been sitting at the ranch, counting the cows, working on the tractor, and really just trying to understand, like, what am I here to, what is my life called to do? And I say this not arrogantly at all, but I've had enough success for a lifetime. So for me, is how can I elevate other people, and how can I help them aspire to be the best version of themselves? And so really, that's my thought process right now. And I have about 18 entities that I'm starting to sell off a couple ventures and dissolve some things and just simplify.
Simplify.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to be pouring into like companies that you're investing in that other people are running, or are you going to be pouring into companies that you control?
Both. So some of my companies, TM5, it's a legacy company. Murphy Signature Homes is a legacy company. So there's some companies that I kind of pulled out of the pack that I said, hey, these are my babies no matter what. And then there's a couple that I'm partners in, or some other ventures that I said, you know what, let's take this to market and sell it, trade it. And we've done really well. Some of our exits, nothing crazy, but we've done solid. And now I'm like, all right, what am I passionate about? And I'm very passionate about acquiring businesses and acquiring real estate. So I'm actually forming a partnership with two other guys and creating Goodwill Capital, where we're raising private equity and investing in businesses. So we're looking for businesses to invest in. We're looking for real estate projects to invest in. And I'm excited about that piece that we're really finna roll into.
Yeah, you learn how to say no, right?
Really quick.
After a while, and go into it. So yeah, tell us a little more about Goodwill Capital. What cycle are we in, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, so what we're looking for is, I helped the guys start it probably about 16 months back, and I told them, I said, hey, I'll help you get it going, but I'm not ready to commit. Yeah. I got a lot on my plate right now, and I'm glad I took this last year off to kind of just reset. But what we're looking for is private credit, so different opportunities. We do gap funding for multifamily, some other opportunities like bridge loan type stuff, mature businesses, so they're netting $1 to $2, $3 million a year, most likely 10, 15, 20 million in revenue or more, and then multifamily and Class A commercial developments.
So here we go again, right? I mean, you're a football player. You cannot possibly be successful in business. What right do you have to go from football to business? What right do you have to go from real estate to non-real estate businesses, right? What is that? What did you learn in real estate or life that is going to be applicable to these other companies?
Yeah, for me, I'm a very tactical thinker. People don't realize, they thought I was just out there running around on the field. But I could literally envision the play and see it before it happened. So I beat people with my mind first. And anybody that played against me, they knew that. This is why a lot of NFL teams were trying to get me to coach. But I just needed a break from football. So I had actually 3 NFL offers, some really good offers: Seattle Seahawks, Green Bay Packers, and another team I won't say out loud because I don't like them. Cowboys, yeah. But for me, what I've learned is there's fundamentals to everything in life, right? Like I say, every relationship is based on communication. Think about it. If you have a spouse, you get off accord when you're not communicating. If you have kids, you get off accord when you're not communicating. If you have a business partner, it gets out of balance if you're not communicating. So for me, I just like finding the fundamental truths in everything, and then once you find the fundamental truth in anything, you can replicate it over and over. So as I study businesses, I think I'm up to 600 books in my library. I collect books. It's just like a hobby now. And I try to read 1 book a week. And in that, I just piece together my smorgasbord of strategy.
Yeah. And are you surrounding yourself with other people that are helping you in certain areas, like your team, or is a lot of this just coming through you?
It was all coming through me, and you and I have talked about this off and on, and you've been an integral person in my life in the real estate space, mainly just from an encouragement standpoint. You've always been behind me. You've always supported me. You've always given me opportunities. I want you to know I appreciate that, brother. But you've said the right things at the right times. And even when we were doing the Murphy Signature Homes projects and stuff that we've done, you said, Terrence, you got to go get some superintendents. You can't build those houses. And although in my mind, I'm like, I've been building them for this long, why not? But it made sense. So I took that wisdom and I said, okay, how do I leverage myself? And how do I bring in talent? So I'm always looking for talent. That's the biggest thing. Right now we have about 575 people that work for us directly or indirectly. So I'm looking for leaders, I'm looking for talent, and I love growing people, helping them kind of go up and be better, be better versions of themselves.
Yeah, very cool. Let's talk about one of those skills really quick, because you talked about football a little bit, and receiver skills, quarterback skills, even field skills. I want to talk about sales skills. Let's talk about sales skills. Entrepreneurs, I think sometimes if you look at the classical, teaching of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of focus on product, there's a lot of focus on market, there's a lot of focus on persistence. And sometimes there's not as much focus on sales. People think that sales is a 4-letter word. I guess it's 5. Got to do that right. But I'm curious that at some point in time you had to turn into a salesperson to not only sell yourself but also sell your company. Tell us a little bit about how did you evolve into a salesperson? And what advice would you give entrepreneurs about salesmanship?
In here? Yeah, what I would inspire you and tell you to do is, no matter who you are, you can be someone who codes in the background, you can be someone who's a visionary, you gotta have sales skills. Point blank period. Because you're gonna have to sell someone on your vision, you're gonna have to sell someone on your value proposition, you're gonna have to sell someone on why they should come work for you. So you're always selling somebody, right? If you have a spouse, you have to sell them on why they should go on a date, right? You gotta sell somebody at all times. So sales skills is something you need to be sharp at, and you can't say, well, I'll just give that to my sales team. You really need to be involved. You need to make sure that's a part of your fundamental value proposition, because you're gonna always be selling somebody. And guess who your biggest sell is gonna be? Anybody know? Yourself. Every day you gotta get up and sell yourself. Our hardest battle is with our inner mind. And so as long as you're waking up on a day-to-day basis and selling yourself on your value proposition, what you bring to the table, what sets you apart, because that inner spirit, that inner mind will talk you out of anything. You're not good enough. You're not ready for this. You don't have the right tools for it. So what are you doing to combat that? And that's being able to sell yourself on a day-to-day basis. And that starts with, I'll give you a quote. This is a good quote, and it's short. It just says, the trajectory of your sales success and life, and the success you see in entrepreneurship is based on 2 things: the books you read and the people you hang around. So all I focus my energy on over the last 90 days is putting myself around the right people with the right energy and reading the right books. And then you will elevate.
Yeah. And yeah, sales is it's a confidence game and a learned skill, right? And you can't learn it. There are books, and there are YouTube videos, there's classes, there's other people you look at. But for me, it was always finding that person who was so good at it and going, that's incredible. And really the best salespeople are the ones you find you've bought from.
Yep.
How did that happen? Yeah. We have a hotel in Canada called the Josie. And the only reason we have a hotel in Canada called the Josie is because Howard Katkoff was one of the best salespeople on the planet, right? And I woke up one day and said, what do we do? We could have done a hotel in Texas or anywhere. We did a hotel in British Columbia because Howard Katkoff was this amazing salesperson. So anyway, quick aside there. A 4-letter word that I've not heard you use tonight is fear. Have you defeated fear at this point, as far as fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of what other people will think, fear of poverty, fear of all these things, or are you still battling that?
Yeah, I got rid of that in 9th grade.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
I don't live life in fear. Even when I got injured, it tried to bring me back. This is what can happen to you if you put yourself out there. But when you I always say, faith and fear can't coexist in the same environment. So if I'm saying I have faith in God and I have faith in what He's put me, the path He's put me on, then I can't have fear in that same sentence. And so there's times that it creeps up for each and every one of us. And one of the things that I really spend a lot of time on now is just studying, where am I quieting my spirit? So I've started doing meditation. I've started just kind of doing some things that I didn't even know was there to help me, and it's really quieted my spirit. And this is a side note, I'm just gonna say it anyway. A lot of times people talk about hydration, they talk about eating, sleeping, all those things, nutrition. Nobody talks about breathing. And so as I really started studying breathing and realizing the benefits of breathing, which is why anxiety is at an all-time high throughout COVID, because we were never intended to have masks on every day, all day. It's cutting down our circulation of air, and I know I'm on a side note, just bear with me. So if you really start understanding why we need to breathe and why we should have breathing exercises and the benefits of that, it'll really make a big impact, because obviously we need oxygen to our brain. But if you really put that in it's just like exercise, but if you force your way into that and really create a repetitive like way of doing it, you'll see a lot of benefits. So that's where I can really make sure that fear doesn't creep up at any time, because I'm doing the things that I need to keep my mind right.
Yeah, I think just about every entrepreneur, business owner, startup person will tell you, if they have a little bit of experience, that it's all here, right? It's not, your success is not dependent upon out there, other people's reactions to what you're doing. Oh, man, I can't succeed because of him. No, I can't succeed because of what I'm thinking about him.
Yep.
Right? And how to control your own thoughts and your own confidence and your own success. And if you start listening to what everybody else is saying, you're going to end up just up in the stands like, which coach was it that said, yeah, hey, you say, coach, you hear all these people in the stands criticizing me, like, yeah, if I listen to them, I'll end up in the stands with them.
Yep.
Right? So I'm down here because evidently I've done things a little bit differently. Right? Just a little bit differently. Shelley, I want to watch our time. We're about 15 minutes. I want to give the Q&A here. So I'll just get going. Anything else you want to share before we go to Q&A?
No, let's go to Q&A.
Yeah. Mr. Holt.
I'm curious back to the origin. One, what'd you major in? But then also you said you had 7 brothers. Talk a little bit about them. Are you still close with your brothers? I come from a huge blended family, so there's like 14 ex-step siblings. I don't hang out with any of those people. Like, do any of them work with you now? Are they part of any of your businesses? Were they athletes as well? That seems like that probably was a big influence there.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Me and Coach here, we made a connection that he coached at A&M Consolidated when they were in the state championship, and I told him where I grew up, and he said we played Chapel Hill. And my older brother was like the star on that team. So he had like 70 D1 offers. And when I was in 2nd grade, I met Coach Slocum, I met Bobby Bowden from Florida State. Like, all the greats were like at a small East Texas town trying to meet my brother. So he's my oldest brother. And yeah, all of us were athletes for sure. And some of them, we all kind of do our own thing. But we're so far apart. Like, he and I are like 10 to 12 years apart. And so my closest sibling was my sister, but my brothers are all way older than me. So, but I'm really a lone wolf. I've always been that. Like, I'll set my own pace. And like, since I was 16, I've taken care of myself. I've never called home for anything. So I just kind of have this lone wolf mentality. So like, if you see I have a cattle business and ranches, you see the Black Wolf Ranch, that's where I was going to do Lone Wolf, but Chuck Norris has a ranch down the street called Lone Wolf Ranch, so I can't compete with him. So that's why I did Black Wolf Ranch. But yeah, that's kind of the origin of it, for sure.
What'd you major in again?
I was Aggie. Yep. So that's where I'm into the hay and the cattle, and we do Black Angus cattle, coastal hay, something I love doing.
I think really, we get back to the question, a really quick point here on being a lone wolf. You can be successful as an entrepreneur as an introvert. You don't have to be an extrovert. You can see people who are extroverts who are really good at it. They're out there all the time, they're doing this, all the parties are slapping your back, they're playing golf, they're everybody that love the crowds. And there's other people who can be just as effective in those situations for short periods of time, and then they need to retreat back, right?
Yep.
Introverts. I mean, Terrence is fantastic with people, fantastic in crowds, but has always been a person to go back and get in his books, get into solitude. Totally successful either way. There's no rules. And sometimes the world, especially our culture here in America, make you think that, oh, I'm not an extrovert, I can't start a company.
Yep.
Wrong. Totally wrong.
That's good wisdom.
Yes, sir. You had a question.
What do you think are the 3 biggest mistakes young entrepreneurs make today?
Yeah, I'll give them to you. You ready? Tell me when you're ready, brother. All right. So the first one is, this is my opinion. I don't know if it's up for debate, but this is just my opinion on it. One is, I felt like everybody was chasing an evaluation. It was all about how quick can I get an evaluation? How quick can I get to a unicorn status? Like, I felt like everybody was chasing that evaluation. Now the market is slowed down. You kind of see everything, simmering in this venture capital space. But I felt like everybody was chasing evaluations, and I don't think that's really the goal. I think building a company that's sustainable long term should be the goal, and that's my opinion. 2, I think, clap, clap. I think 2 would be, it's okay to bootstrap. Don't be in a rush. Don't rush out there and start raising money until you know what you're doing, because when you start raising capital, You got to answer to people. And so I would take my time on that. And then 3, I would say, truly understand what problem you're solving in this space, what sets you apart, and be able to communicate your unique selling proposition. Like, make it black and white. Because I've heard a million pitches, and I'm like, 10 minutes in, I'm like, now what are we talking about? Like, what are we selling? What's your company? What are we doing? So I think just keep it plain and simple. And when you get in front of high net worth people, venture capital type people, they're busy. I'm busy. So when you get my ear, like, it's got to be, you can't tell me a bedtime story. You got to get to it.
So who remembers the answer to the question that I asked him, what do you do?
Real estate entrepreneur.
I'm a real estate entrepreneur. Boom. No hesitation. I know exactly what to say. You ask me what I do, this is what I do, right? And okay, well, that might elicit another question or two, but at least I'm on the point of that. Who else had their hand up? Yes, in the back.
You talk about that you love growing people and that's one of your passions. And with all the businesses you have, you've built a lot of teams. How do you deal with the heartbreak when those people let you down?
When they let me down, in what way? Just like not doing their job, or?
Yeah, when you kind of invested, poured a lot into them, and they do something knuckleheaded that may or may not have big implications for your business.
I understand if people are people. I start off with grace first. Everybody knows in my organization, if you F up, just come tell me. We'll work through it. But be honest. Like, that's the one thing I miss about football. It was so organic. For one, you can't hide. If I drop a ball in front of 100,000 people and a millions on TV, I can't be like, that wasn't my fault, right? But what people don't realize, the reason we huddle, now there's a lot of no huddle, but the reason we used to huddle is we were talking about the play that just happened. We only take the last couple seconds to call the new play. The time we're in the huddle, we're like, hey, bro, you're supposed to go to 12 yards, not 14. So it was immediate accountability. And I don't have time to argue back and forth. And so we call it next play mentality. Coach knows this. And so I have that same mentality in business. Like, you have a bad day, a bad week, a bad sales month. What do we need to do to get you back on the horse and get you in the right direction? And then I always ask people, do you want to be here? I ask them that all the time. Like, nobody in my office, even myself, do I want to be a part of what we're building? Because I don't ever want anybody to show up as half-heartedly in. Like, we're going to war every day, and if you're not ready to go to battle, I don't want you in the fight with me.
Great question, by the way. Yes, sir.
When you're in situations...
2 seconds, brother. Can I add one more thing to hers? And then I always follow up with a solution. So I never coach anybody without giving them something to execute. So I'm like, okay, if you're struggling with this, here's a book. If you're doing this, here's something you need to read. Hey, let's schedule 15 minutes for the next 3 weeks so I can follow up. Like, there's always a follow-up plan, because I never just coach them and then send them out in the wilderness and say, figure it out. So I always give a follow-up plan or some type of execution to help them get in the right direction. I'm solution-driven all the time. Sorry.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
So when you're either in your business or personal life and you aren't sure where to kind of steer the boat, where do you go to look for answers to help kind of clear the waters ahead? Do you go to people? Do you go to books? Do you just look inward and spend time alone?
Look
What
inward.
does that process look like?
Yeah, I look inward and spend time alone. Prayer. So I do a lot of prayer time with my Father in heaven. Scripture. And then I have the Holy Spirit, so that's my guide. And a lot of times I set absolutes. So I set a lot of absolutes in my life. So like one, I set an absolute years ago, I won't work on Sunday no matter what. No matter what. Because that's church time and family time for me. Or whatever it is. So I set these absolutes, and then I just stay true to my absolutes. I think one of the things that we do is we're very committed to everyone else, but we don't commit to ourselves. And there's a season. You got to grind, and you got to work after hours, and you got to work 85 hours, 90 hours a week. That comes with the territory. But long term, that's not sustainable over a 20, 30-year period. So just think about this as a marathon. It's not a sprint. We can sprint and do anything for 100 meters, but can you do it for 1,600 meters? And so just always trying to find that balance. Is this something that I can maintain long term? Or is this something that I'm just doing? I call it in a season. Because I can do anything in a season. Like, I literally can do anything. I'll grind it out with anybody in the world for a season. But is it something that I want to do long term, and is it something that I have to do? And you got to ask yourself that every day. That help you, bro?
Yes, sir. Next, I'll get you, Caleb.
Well, what's the end of that marathon? What are all of your accomplishments working toward?
Man, honestly, I always told myself I was going to retire in my 30s. So I did that. And for me, it's legacy now. Everything that I'm doing is legacy. So if it's a project, I want it to be a legacy project. If it's a relationship, like Spencer and I have been going strong for a long time, that's a long-term relationship that is very important to me. So everything that I'm giving my time to, I'm looking to play the long game. Because at this point, I think we get too caught up in the quantity and not the quality. And I am an introvert, like to the 10th degree. And so for me, every relationship, I would much rather go deeper with friendship than just know everybody. Because I've been in that season of my life where I can't even tie my shoe without it being on Texas Ag or on ESPN. I'm not really interested in that. So for me, it's long term. And so whether it's financial goals or whatever, it's the impact that I can make with those. Because remember, guys, you've never seen a hearse you've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. None of this is going with us. So what kind of impact are we going to leave? And that's what I'm focused on.
And I'm playing hard to get, for the record. Caleb.
I just had a question. So they talk. I read a lot more now that I'm out of college. But
What'd you say, Caleb? Say that again,
I
bro.
read a lot more now that I'm out of college than I did when I was in college. But one of the things you read is when you're starting a company, you have people you start a company with, people you grow a company with, and then people that basically kind of take it to exit or whatever.
Yep.
I'm just curious in your case, because I'm going through a phase of that in my life right now, where people who, when I started my company, I was like, these people are got to go with me. And now I'm having to make decisions that they're not right for the next phase of the company. Have you experienced some of that, or do you still have some people that they're on day one, outside Erica, but do you still have some people that are, were started on the first day and they're still with you? Or at some point in time, did they transition out? Or
Yeah, everything's seasonal. I just had 3 ladies that have been with me for 12 years on one venture. One just moved to Destin and retired. And one's having her second baby, and she's going home to be a stay-at-home mom. Another one moved away. So it's just life. It comes with the territory. And I always say everybody's not prescribed to every season that you're going into. So there's a new season you may be getting ready to go into with the business, and God will bring the right people into your life to help you elevate to that next season. So Philippians 4:4-7 is really the scripture that I'm meditating on throughout this quarter, which is don't worry about anything, instead pray about everything. Now he gives us tactical advice after that, right? He says, pray about it, thank me in advance, and if you do these things, you'll have peace beyond man's understanding. So anytime I have angst or I'm out of balance, I go back to that scripture and I say, okay, am I worrying? Because that was the first thing he told me not to do. Because if I'm worrying, then I know I won't have peace. Okay, I'm not worrying. All right, have I prayed about it? Because you can not worry, but if you're not praying about it, and then, all right, if I'm not worrying, I've prayed about it, but then did I thank him in advance? So there's 3 things that I have to do, and if I do those 3 things, then I'll have peace beyond man's understanding. So that's really the scripture I'm meditating on right now.
Like launching into a lot of good stuff here. And not so biblical, but Don Henley interviewed a few years ago. Yeah, he was East Texas, grew up close to you, little bitty town. Was it Linden or Lindale?
Lindale.
Lindale. And you knew, good for you. And they asked about, he had a band, he had a high school band he was in, and he took these guys to California with him, but eventually he had to leave those guys because he goes, they just wanted to watch TV. He goes, I wanted to be places, I wanted to go places. There's just there's no right or wrong, just a different level of motivation or different goals. So sometimes you have to, I've been left behind, let's put it that way. Other people say, sorry, Spencer, I'm going to go do something else. And I'm fine with that.
It's life.
Who else? Yes, sir. Come back.
So my business partner Mason and I can both relate to you a lot, both Christians, both from Tyler.
So what's up, man?
In the military, so we're focused and driven. We're studying here at A&M to become officers. We've already been in the Marines for about 8 years now. We discovered real estate about 3 years ago. Started using conventional loans, and now we've scaled up to owner finance deals. We're raising private capital. We raised about $600,000, and we're possibly taking on another $1 million, for which we pay 12% cash on cash for.
You're paying 12% on that $1 million you raised?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's monthly installments. Monthly, which is only payments.
Is that annualized?
also running a nonprofit organization that just started up where we're looking for a commercial space in downtown Bryan, where we're doing this business called nonprofit called Feed and Father, feed his kids spiritually and physically. So a meal every Friday afternoon, as well as fathering them to be like a big brother or a father figure to all these kids that don't have dads or big brothers or uncles. So we got a lot of things that we're juggling right now between our relationships. We got a Bible study right after this. We got church, of course, on Sundays. We got a real estate empire. We got a couple of employees now, school, and a nonprofit. So the specific question I have is, how much money should we raise at 12% before we start coming down to 8, 9, 10%?
That is not the question I thought you were about to ask.
I know, I was trying to track with you. I thought you were going in a whole nother direction. That was a boomerang for sure. You said earlier, what's the cap? So that's the first thing. Is it a cap on your life, or is it a cap on the interest rate?
It's a cap on the amount that we raise before we start getting into the SEC rules.
Okay. I think the biggest thing I would look at is,
Remember, you're a real estate broker.
oh yeah, right.
I have to tell them, we're both real estate brokers, and we're not allowed to give legal advice.
Oh, for sure.
So that's the caveat. Now you can say whatever you want.
A 27-year-old kid that's got another 8 years in the military before he get out.
Yeah, I think what I would say is I would double down on really, and this isn't legal advice, pro forming out, like, do I need to keep raising the capital the way I am? Because 12% annualized.
It's expensive debt.
Dude, you can't scale that way.
Right.
So you got to find other ways to get to capital. And I'm guaranteeing you there's some other people, there's some other relationships that you got to go beat down some doors, knock on some doors, do some handshakes, and find some cheaper capital. Because that burn rate is that's tough, bro.
Yeah, now the cash flow from the Airbnb is very nice. It's sustainable, and we're still growing. And we're doing 48-month terms, so we don't have to pay back, the principal until 4 years from now. So I'm betting on appreciation. I'm betting on a refinance of the whole portfolio in 3 or 4 years to pay back the investors, or hopefully keep them on board.
Yeah.
Paying 12%.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll connect.
yeah, you
Yeah,
guys
we'll
talk.
connect. We'll connect after the fact for sure. I'll help you any way I can.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but just remember, if 4 years from now you owe somebody $100,000, you have a problem. If you owe somebody $10 million, they have a problem. Right? And so there's a place where those lines cross, and at that point in time, they're going to be very willing to work with you to figure this out at this 4-year term, unless you're borrowing money from people who are going to shoot you in the knees or something. Hopefully you're not doing that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Make sure you're dealing with upright, lenders on that. Yes, in the back.
It's not a question, but I'm going to make a statement. You can't count on real estate appreciation in a world of 8% interest and uncertainty. So take that one out of the portfolio evaluation. Instead, you need to work on a cash flow basis. And this has been, I'm just going to compliment because I didn't have a question. This has been a great set of Q&A already. I learned
That was
things that I
fantastic.
never knew. I'm not an Aggie, so I don't know anything about it. And I already feel like I got my free money's worth. This has been great.
Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you very much. Shelley, how much time we have?
We're a little bit over, so I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, got one more? Anybody else? One more out there? Yes, Chris.
I'm just curious what your mom did, what she does.
My mom has passed. She passed 4 years ago. Yes, sir.
What did she do when you were in high school?
Sir?
When you were in high school growing up?
She was in business finance. Yeah. So that's where I got the numbers and all that from. Yeah.
All good.
I'll leave some time because I know some of these young men like to take pictures with
Yeah, let's take some pictures. Appreciate y'all coming out. I know the Aggies are playing basketball at 6 and it's a busy time, but just a quick close here. You can learn from anybody, but you can really learn from people who've been through it and people who have developed wisdom. And if you read between the lines and listen between the lines here from my friend, and I think a lot of us about my age can relate, that you chase something for a while and you go, whoa, I think I need to stop for a little bit. Reevaluate, right? Totally fine with that. You can do that at age 25, you can do it at 45, 65, doesn't matter. But it's okay to stop and go, what's meaningful to me? How do I get meaning out of this life? Like you said before, that last chapter you're talking about. So I applaud him for that, and he's been fantastic in this community. He's a big part of this community. And he came back and gave back to Bryan-College Station. And very similar to J.J. Watt. I'll give you a quick J.J. Watt shout out. And y'all have heard this analogy before, but J.J. Watt was from Wisconsin. He was a Badger. He wanted to play for the Green Bay Packers his whole life. And who drafts him? Houston Texans, right? Right? Shows up to Houston, what does he do? Does he go, man, I want to be a Packer? No, he wrapped his arms around that city. He loved that city first. And guess what? They love him right back even more. So Terrence has been the same way in this community. So thank you, Terrence.
Thank you, buddy.